Welcome to the Dragon's Library, your source for games, movies, shows, and more. Hello everybody, welcome back to the Dragon's Library. So today we are talking about the White Vault, Seasons 3, 4, and 5. Season 5 actually just wrapped up recently, so I've wanted to talk about this for a little while. It finished up in March, in case you were wondering. So this is, our introduction right here. Moving on to intro. We're going to go over basically what it's about, general information, very non-spoilerish. Before I begin this next section, though, I will just go ahead and say, if you do not know what the White Vault is, it is a horror podcast series. I did a review of seasons 1 and 2. You can find a link for that in the description. You can also find a link to the podcast in the description on both Spotify and on YouTube. So yeah, all in all, this is a very good series. I would highly recommend it based on the first 2 seasons. That's just my review there if you just wanted a basic overview. As a recap, for those of you who have not gone to see my previous review or have not listened to the series, which again, you probably should. This series is basically the seasons 3, 4, and 5 are continuations of the initial expedition to Outpost Frigid. So, short version, a group of researchers and survivalists, basically a small team was sent by a company up to this outpost in the highest, most northern part of the world possible, Outpost Frigid. And it is literally only connected to the mainland by a small fishing village on the same continent, on the same little landmass. And it is several miles from that with massive snowstorms, often making travel ill-advised. This area is often covered in snowstorm. During these periods, travel is not advised. It's the whole gimmick of this series. Basically, people trapped with monsters up in a hard-to-reach region while there's a lot of horrible weather preventing them from escaping. It's basically the gimmick of the whole show. And the first 2 seasons follow the team that gets sent up to Outpost Frigid. And obviously it's a horror series and there are other seasons, so they don't end well. I will let you know there's minor spoilers for season 2 coming up in a bit, but it's nothing you won't get pretty early on to season 3. There was a survivor. I'm not going to say who. Anyone who's watched it probably has at least an idea of who it is. But yeah. So we're going to go over seasons by season. So I'm going to have a sort of 3 mini reviews in here because I kind of need to section it out for stuff like that. All right. Moving on. This is going to be season 3 section. Okay. Ready, set, go. Okay. Basic intro plot line. After the Frigid expedition goes missing, the narrator, who is basically someone trying to uncover the mystery of this strange event that wiped out our expedition team with no bodies and cruel and evidence that looked like they were being attacked by a monster but was dismissed by the rest of the world as a cruel joke, had begun in the previous in the time between these seasons investigating small talismans and other mysterious things that you can find in the White Vault's website. They sell smaller short stories that aren't as long as a full season but are longer than an individual episode that go over these smaller stories. Anyway, one of the researchers she's been in contact with, Dr. Liu, and she is working with another doctor, Dr. Josefa Guerrero. And they both have an intern. So you have Simon and you have Ava. They're going to be our main cast for this series. In addition, they also have the tourist guide who found a set of ruins. These ruins have carvings that relate to Dr. Liu's work at one of the other sites, these mysterious sites with monsters, that she managed to encounter due to the narrator, from what I understand. I haven't read that specific story, but I do know she is in it, or is related to it based on what I heard throughout season 3. So, obviously, they go to investigate, because, they're archaeologists. It seems like a major discovery, weird time period stuff. Oh wow, people shouldn't have been up here. How did they carve all these things? After the first night, weird things start happening, statues moving around, and essentially the same kind of haunting stuff as the first season happens. I will not spoil what happens here. You're going to have to see that for yourself. But yeah, moving on from season 3, you have season 4. Essentially, a rescue party gets sent up there to rescue Dr. Guerrero and Dr. Liu, along with their 2 interns, because one of the group managed to get back down to the mountains and go for help. The narrator collects a team of some trusted individuals she has, along with the survivor for Outpost Freestead and one of their associates. They go up there and try and save the survivors. I will not spoil what happens. Season 5. Outpost Freestead is getting really weird. The nearby town is experiencing a massive snowstorm and they've had communication blackout for a long time. Throughout the last two seasons, the narrator has had interactions with her mother, who may or may not be part of the secret society, who has some relation to this stuff, and it all concludes with the final survivor Outpost Freestead returning there with his team to put a stop to this once and for all, while the narrator confronts her mother and the organization potentially responsible, or maybe just the caretakers of, this weird supernatural monster phenomenon. At the end of Season 5, I'm not going to say that. That's for spoiler section. But let's just say it ends in a very interesting note where essentially a cycle of death has passed, and now the narrator, along with one of the only survivors in the series, has to work together to try and piece together some kind of closure and stop these killings from ever happening again. So, that's the White Vault Season 3, 4, and 5's basic overview plot. It's pretty basic. As the series goes on, it really dives into the mystery elements, and as the last few things I've reviewed, I've really enjoyed talking about the mystery of it all, and how that can be really intriguing to see for yourself. So I'm always very hesitant to spoil that for people. In fact, I actually spoiled some things in the initial recording here, and I had to go back and delete it and re-record this section because I just felt I was being too spoilery. So, moving on from there, we have the characters, and I'll just go over the characters as they're introduced. So you have Season 3, you get the new characters with Simon and Ava. They're both great. They're basically interning under these scientists and these archaeologists. Very excited about their passions. Ava has a great character arc. Simon is one of the better characters, and he actually pops up. I can't say where. Again, I'm going to talk about this a lot more in the spoiler section. Let's just say I really like Ava. I really like Simon. I think they're both good. They play off each other. It's a little bit tragic. Dr. Liu is a bit more distant as a character. I don't really get much off her. And, since this is a horror series, you automatically probably know she's one of the first to die. So, it's not really a spoiler. Dr. Jeffrey Guerrera, I will say, survives all the way to Season 5, and she is actually a recurring character at this point. She comes up in 3 seasons, which means she turns up more than some of the people who turned up in the first 2 seasons, which is actually a little surprising. She ends up accompanying the team on their final journey up to Outpost Freestead, which is very impressive, and I very much liked it. Now, I'm going to talk about the survivor from Outpost Freestead. This is a spoiler section. If you do not wish to talk about this, skip ahead about 2 minutes, and I will be done with this. I will have a timestamp here. Hopefully. I'm still trying to get that done more consistently, so hopefully there will be. Okay, 2 minutes starting now, go. So, remember this is spoilers. The survivor from Outpost Freestead is Graham Kasner. His voice actor is fantastic. Graham has this very deterministic, when he originally wants nothing to freaking do with the new site or to help the survivors. He's like, look, I barely survived this. I'm not going there. I'm going to go back to my daughter, embrace her, and not go on any adventures ever again. But apparently the other researchers, before their connection got cut off, found a body. And in the caves up in South America, the new site, they found the body of the doctor who he had kind of grown to have a bit of a relationship with at Outpost Freestead, and he felt very guilty about the death of. Now, somehow, her body got from, the Arctic all the way to South America. He's obviously very distressed and has to know what happened to her, so he agrees to go back. He ends up helping to rescue, along with a new partner for his. As the series, he's basically our main protagonist throughout the first, I guess we'll call this the first arc of the White Vault. Although this is technically the end of the White Vault, but they're gonna have another series in this universe, so it'll basically be like a sequel series. And Graham Castner is literally, he's the only character from season 1 who survived, and he's survived all the way to season 5. He's a good character, very tough, but cares about everyone around him. Almost sees himself as cursed at this point, which, yeah, that's fair. But yeah, so everybody else is about to come back in. Let's go talk about another character. Alright, if I did the timestamp correctly, you should have landed about here. I'm very sorry if you got any spoilers, but it was only a minor one because it was very heavily telegraphed who survived. So the survivor of Outpost Freestead had a friend by the name of Drakana Vukovic. She is called in as a secondary guide on this expedition and is there for season 4 and season 5. Season 4 is essentially a continuation of season 3, much like how season 2 was a continuation of season 1. The survivor of Outpost Freestead, and geez, it's hard to just keep saying the survivor of Outpost Freestead, goes up there with a team to rescue the others. The person who managed to come back down the mountains is determined to see the others survive, although there are other reasons I won't get into with spoiler. And they go back out there as well. Now armed with weapons and knowledge of how these things work, the survivor is able to help lead them to safety and save some of the others. I'm not going to tell you who lives or who dies. That's for you to discover. Afterwards, they upset the sites, and as a result, Outpost Freestead's site goes basically nuclear and blankets the nearby town. The survivor and his team are once again sent into the town, along with a new scientist who's from one of the side stories that I actually did listen to. Gets sent up there to figure out what's going on, with a lot of shadowy organizations trying to manipulate the outcome of this event because it could potentially have catastrophic results. In the end, the narrator is faced to make some hard choices alongside the others, actually having to become a part of the plot instead of a passive observer of it, which is kind of an interesting point of view because the narrator actually is someone trying to put this all together. And the final little speech she gives at the end where we kind of get like a frame of reference for the entire series is really interesting. And I really love the way it's framed, honestly. The White Vault, so that gives us a natural segue into the technical details because this is an audio series. And I actually do have some technical details to talk about for once. So, The White Vault is, along with the Magnus Archives, one of the only podcast series I actually really, really like because it's a podcast. Like, basically everything else I feel like you could have made it a book, or you could make it a movie or a show. The Magnus Archives and The White Vault are very specifically podcasts, and they take advantage of the medium using things like, basically, whenever somebody's being listened to, you are listening to them because it is something that was recorded naturally in their environment. Maybe they're being hunted by a monster and they don't want somebody to just find nothing. Maybe they were making wild notes to each other. A lot of the times, you don't even have audio recordings. It's just the documentarian recording as she's reading the notes that were found, the bloody notes and stuff like that. Later on, as the documentarian begins sending groups out there, she arms them with cameras and stuff and audio recording equipment, and she narrates, and whenever she's there, she's like, "What's that?" And then she'll take a big pause, like, "So in the distance, in the flashing, you can clearly make out. I can make out a strange shape that blurs in the distance before vanishing. It is undetermined what species it was, but it seemed to maintain properties of amphibians and perhaps fish. This will require further notes." And it really gives this sense of someone documenting everything through these recordings. Which gives a sort of ludonarrative harmony to the work and its medium that I've always really enjoyed. Like, this feels like something that was meant to be recorded. In the same way that there are some games like Half-Life or Portal or BioShock that are meant to be games. You couldn't just shove that story into something else, you know? There's a part of it that's meant to involve the player and comment on player interaction with the games. And I feel that it's something very interesting and something that not enough works do, because it's very hard to make a work that feels in complete harmony with its medium. A lot of times you're working to fight against the limitations of your medium rather than working with them. I had to comment on that because again, the reason I started listening to The White Vault is because I like the Magnus Archives, looked for other horror podcasts, and immediately stopped looking until I eventually found this by accident. And it's the only one I've really enjoyed like this. Like, I've enjoyed other narrative podcasts. What was the other one that I've gotten really into for a while? Oh yeah, it's that Liberty Tales from the Top Tower. It's like a sci-fi horror on some space colony. It has like everything from like space vampires to strange AI overlord stuff. And it's interesting. It's very interesting. The first episode in particular is the Tales from the Tower series is extremely effective at drawing you in. But it doesn't feel like something that had to be a podcast. Like, it feels like some of this could be a book, or it could be a movie, or it could be a show. It doesn't feel like it lives in its medium. It feels like it was just made in this medium, not that it was made for that medium. Okay, you guys have heard me ramble enough about why I think the White Vault is amazing. I'm going to go ahead and give you my overall rating now. Moving into the overall rating section. This is an amazing series. Go listen to it. Seriously, stop what you're doing right now, pause this, go listen to seasons 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, or if you've already listened to season 1, 2, because I recommended those earlier, listen to 3, 4, and 5, come back and let me talk about it with you guys, because this is a series that deserves some love. There's a lot of love. The creators will also offer secondary side stories if you want them. They're not necessarily done as general plot, but they are small fees. It helps support these creators, and they do really good work. This series is some of the best sound design I have ever encountered in a podcast, and geez, man, they deserve just all the praise. Voice actor for Graham Castner in particular, great job, man. Excellent job. So yeah, this is a solid 9.5, 10, no, you know what? I'll just give it a 10 out of 10. I think this deserves a 10 out of 10. One of my rare 10 out of 10s. I don't give a lot of really, really bad ratings, but I also don't give out 10s just willy-nilly. This is a 10 though. This, like the Magnus Archives, is what I would call a perfect podcast. It takes a horror concept, it runs with it, and it does it within the confines of its medium without feeling like it's fighting against it. This is a 10 out of 10. This is what proper, well-made stuff looks like. And it deserves your love. Alright, so we're going to be moving into the spoiler sections where I go more in detail on the plot and really break away from this more structured setup I've been getting into to talk just kind of, free form about what I have been listening to recently. Alright, we all good? Everybody aware? This is your last spoiler work. This is your last spoiler alert. Okay, we all good? The survivor is Graham Castner. Frickin' hell, I can just say it now. Graham Castner is alive. Graham Castner is alive. Yeah, he survived. So, in the first 2 seasons, the team got picked off one by one, starting with the really innocent girl, geologist. What was her name again? Karina. Her name was Karina. And Dr. Schumacher Weiss and the other 2, whose names escape me at the moment. Jonas was one of them. Can I remember the last one without having to look it up? No, I cannot. 1 second. Walter. It was Walter Heath. I forgot about that. But yeah, they go up to the station and they get picked off one by one. Eventually, when there are only 3 of them, I believe it was Jonas and Rosa Della Torre, Dr. Rosa Della Torre, she was the 5th one. They, along with Graham, are resting in this cave when a creature grabs Graham and pulls him into the water. Jonas and Rosa are tormented by the remaining creature as they try and find a way out. After making a split decision because Jonas is being very injured and can't fit through this narrow opening, they decide to go a different way, which is disappointing because the way they should have gone was the way out. Rosa gets taken by a strange light in a door, and Jonas crawls his way out only to notice that his arm is peeling off as his skin turns black and he transforms into one of the monsters, losing himself before, essentially turning into a monster. The crew finds the rotting corpses of his prey and a small nest he made, but he is nowhere to be found. In season 2. Isn't that just a happy ending? Well, in season 3, near the end, Graham Castner is discovered by some fishermen and pulled out of the sea. No one knows he's alive yet, but he is. Luckily, the narrator had been looking for some survivors and had put out sort of like a reward, managing to get a hold of Graham before he goes home. She tells him that she's discovered another site, that another team has been lured up there and that they're going to be killed. During season 3, Josefa Guerrero, Dr. Liu, Ava, and I forgot the last guy's name. Simon Hall, that was it. Simon. So they get brought up there by this other guy, Lucas. In addition to that, there's some weird stuff going on. All in all, not great. Lucas goes mad, gets devoured. There's about some insects. Some of them sting Ava. The others get trapped in a cave-in and locked inside the eerie site with the weird stuff. Simon has been severely injured and is trapped. Ava goes for help. She somehow manages to escape the monsters and get down the mountain, who the narrator, obviously locates her, and she's assembled a team. So, Graham grabs, what was the other girl's name? Dragana Vukovic. I always forget. Dragana. Duh. Dragana. Anyway. So they get a team of the narrator's second in command, the person she sends out on all these expeditions, Graham Kasner, the returning Ava, Dragana Vukovic, and who was the last member of their group? I forget. Not really important. All in all, they go up there and they manage to free Simon. They manage to rescue Dr. Josefa Guerrero. They blow up the site. Dr. Liu has already been long dead by the monsters. One of them has shapeshifted into her, because that's one of the things they do is make themselves look like they're and imitate speech in order to toilet their prey. Before ripping out your heart and your teeth, after they kill you, stuffing you into a box and presenting the still somehow beating yet severed heart to their, the ones they're still gonna stalk. Because these things are like monsters. Like, sadistic monsters. Not just the whole, we turn into rocks when you're looking at a gargoyle thing they have going on. Oh, geez. These things are interesting. Now, we later learned they're called, like, the Favre, and I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, the word they pronounce, but it sounded a lot like the Favre, which is actually a creature from Irish mythology, sort of like a dark reflection of the Tuatha gods, / a lot of different things. Irish mythology got weirdly Christianized, and we don't really know all the details about what these things exactly were. But it is interesting, and I wonder if they were drawing on Irish folklore when they made these things. Or I might be mispronouncing the name entirely, and it might just sound sort of like Favre because it sounds like you got a golf ball in your mouth. I don't know, but maybe. That's just something just food for thought, I guess. They don't really act like any Irish monsters I've ever heard of, though. So I'm not really sure how you'd fit that in. But, all in all, the Favre are very interesting. They're, just supernatural monsters, voice mimicry, hiding in the shadows. You never know where they are. They always manage to be scary. Like, there's this palpable air of tension where you never quite know when they're gonna strike, what they're doing, where they are. And it adds to the paranoia that you share with the characters. Anyway, after blowing up the site and rescuing some of the people, Ava stays behind because she's turning into one of the monsters and doesn't want to do that. She's already been tainted. She can't leave the site. She knows she only left before because they let her, because they had hoped to lure Graham back again. But she manages to blow up the site, letting everyone, disrupting the unnatural weather, enough for everyone else to escape. Simon Hall, along with the helicopter pilot he had had a friendly relationship beforehand with, he gets brought home him and the helicopter pilot go home together. Meanwhile, Dr. Josefa Guerrero decides to join the narrator's new team after the narrator's second command gets freaking murdered, Red Shirt style. He goes down so quickly. Anyway, we move on to season 5. The narrator learns that these monsters are being fueled by various families who have ties to the sites, there's a lot of mythology, I'm not going to go into it, and it's not really clear because it's all shrouded in ancient myth, we only know half the stuff kind of deal. Basically, the long and short of it is, these family members can walk through the ruins unharmed, the monsters don't hurt them, they are the caretakers of the site. Long time ago, there were people who walked through the light doors, but nowadays the light doors just lead to death mostly. The monsters are people who were offered there as sacrifices, along with human sacrifices to aid it. The heart thing is supposed to be a comfort to those who have been killed or who friends were killed. It's very unclear. And the whole ritual has to be done because it's implied that whenever a ritual fails to occur on time, a natural disaster occurs. I think they mentioned like Pompeii or volcanic eruptions, stuff like that. So essentially, if they have to sacrifice people, because if they don't sacrifice people to the monsters and let a new monster be born, there will be tons of natural disasters, and it's implied that if you go long enough without sacrificing people, the disasters will become exponentially worse and worse. And since millions upon millions of people will die from these disasters, doing nothing, i.e. not sacrificing people, is kind of the lesser evil from a, numbers perspective. Which actually adds a bit more, interesting. So they don't really want to do this. They're kind of, trapped in this cycle of sacrificing lives in order to preserve the lives of the many. The narrator's mother informs her that Graham Kasner has to walk into the White Door in order to sacrifice himself to end the cycle that should have ended when his team was killed. But since Graham survived, the whole thing never ended, and it's growing exponentially worse. The snowstorm will expand if she does not. Millions will die. So she contacts Graham, who she had already sent up there, and tells him that in order to stop all this, he has to walk into the door. She essentially lies to him, and she doesn't just lie and feel like, there, are you done? She actually breaks down afterwards, because she's come to actually respect the abilities of these survivors. She told them they were working to stop this stuff, to understand it and put an end to it. That she's been investigating the shadowy people doing it so she can put it into them on her end. And now at the moment of truth, she's learned what she needs to do, and what she needs to do is let the man she's grown to respect die. It's just a very sad, tragic moment, especially since no one expects her betrayal, so they all take it as, alright, you're our information person, we trust you. And I think that's what hits her, is that none of them question her. None of them act like, are you sure? That sounds a little odd. It's like, no, trust me. You need to walk into the door, you need to blow it up. Alright, you're the person who knows what to do, all your information is right so far, we'll do it. We're the boots on the ground. Thank you for your service. It's like, fucking hell, I think most people will break down after that. Because, it's basically all people saying, yeah, we'll walk into death. We trust you so much. You also got this secondary plot line with Jonas's monster, the monster that had once been Jonas, confronting the scientist, Tagalong, who was a spy for another one of the families, and a bunch of interfamilial drama. Not going to really get into that much. I will say the whole thing with her on the ship was a really interesting side story. Basically, it was like, what if they ran into these statues in the middle of the ocean, an unknown site that had been taking people from years in the middle, off in the sea? That'd be a really cool way to do the Bermuda Triangle, actually, have it be one of these sites in the area. But, anyway, one of the statues got washed aboard their ship, got, caught in some fishing nets or something. And they basically had an outbreak on the ship, and she was one of the only survivors. She gets caught by one of the other families who wants her to basically act as a double agent for them, because the families, although they work together, have a bit of, rivalries and different agendas and goals. The narrator's mother wants this to stop. They're researching the monsters to try and figure out how this started and how they can put it into it once and for all, because they don't like sacrificing people. But the others are like, we must just maintain the status. This is what works. This is what keeps our world safe. We shall not deviate from it. Traditionalist versus progressive, essentially. The mom's okay. We don't really get as much of her. She's very distant. The new scientist is fun, although it's partially because I experienced her story as one of the side stories, so I have a bit of attachment to her. All in all, this accumulates with Graham dying. Dracana Vukovic ends up surviving, and after rightfully chewing the narrator out for sending them to their deaths and slapping her, the other scientist vanishes, and she takes some survivors in the neighboring town who had managed to survive the monster's assault on a helicopter. So eventually, rescuers are sent there, and they find all the others and basically shell-shock, muttering the same phrases over and over again. There are at least a few dozen missing or dead, but nobody believes the truth of what happened, obviously. Dracana tracks down the narrator and essentially slaps her multiple times for sending them to their deaths. And then she's like, are you going to slap me? Are you going to hit me again for Graham? It's like, if I were to make you pay for Graham, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now, because you would be dead. It's like, okay, that's fair. He was like one of your best friends. He was like your best friend, your partner of many years when it came to, guides on, treacherous terrain. Like, you were very close to him as a person, and, the narrator sent him to his death thinking he was going to make a difference, and instead he just fueled the cycle he had fought this whole time to try and prevent. In the end, Graham was kind of tragic in that way. You even get, and of course you get all the sad stuff at the end of the series, like you get to hear his will for his daughter, and it's just this moment of, god damn. He was also just a great character. I really enjoyed him. He came across as practical, but as the series went on, the ghosts of his past began to haunt him, the people he couldn't save, all the survivor's guilt from Outpost Freestead of Jonas and Walter and Karina and Rosa. They just weigh on him. In the end, you almost get the feeling that he's happy to just have it all end. Of course, Dracana only agrees to work with the narrator on the condition they are working to stop this, and of course that's what her mother's family wants to, family organization wants to achieve. So the new premise is, this cycle has ended, the sites are all calmed down, and we need to find a way to stop this before it all starts up again. Because otherwise more people are gonna die. It's kind of this bitter, somber way for you to end the series. Like, there's not really necessarily a happy ending, but they're trying. They're trying to make it a happy ending in the end. I like it. I like it a lot. It's, chef's kiss. Great ending to the series. I thought it was just going to be the end, like this bittersweet, because the way the series actually finishes, like the last few lines are, "To my daughter, if you are listening to this, I am the narrator of the White Vault. These are the group of papers I have recorded based on the phenomena I have observed, starting with this strange phenomena at Outpost Freestead. These are the These documents may not be in order." And she basically starts reciting the first few lines we hear, and we're like, oh, this entire series is basically the, hey, daughter, if you're reading this, I'm dead. Here's this supernatural thing that actually happened. I don't want you to have to experience it like I did. She basically is a giant middle finger to the secrecy of the families, essentially. Which I have massive respect for her for that. But it was this moment of, oh, did they not finish it? Because that's kind of the implication is, if you're hearing this, if this information has been leaked, if someone is listening to this, they failed. They did not succeed. Or maybe they did. That's the thing. It implies it didn't succeed, but it does not really say it. So it has this almost bitter, somber quality to the end. It's like, is their entire quest in vain? Like, is the fact that we're listening to this mean that people will continuously have to be sacrificed to the family, that there is no solution? That despite Dracana and the narrator's work, they will never find an answer? Oh, I love this series so much! But, yeah, so that's about it. Spoiler section is done. It's been great talking with you guys. I have actually just posted my schedule on Twitter. You can go check that out. And it shows what I'm going to be doing this week. I will be, this is going to be coming out on Buzzsprout on Tuesday. So that day I will be, on the 12th, I will be doing a stream, continuing my stream with the Consuming Shadow. It's just a little thing I have in between stuff because I don't really have a major game right now. I'll be continuing to play that. Thank you to the one person, Hot Steamy Fart, who was on there. In addition to that, I will not be doing streaming on Thursday. I have a movie to get to. I'll be watching the second Sonic movie, so, alright, fine. It's popular. Let's see if it's better than the first one. I mean, it's not really a high bar to clear, let's be real here. Look, Sonic fans, I know you're desperate for any Sonic content that isn't, like, objectively horrible, but the first Sonic movie isn't that great. Sorry, it's not. It's like C or D tier movie. Which, I get it, is high praise for a video game movie, but we've had Castlevania, we've had Detective Pikachu. We can do better than C or D tier, okay? But, yeah. So I'm hoping the second one's gonna be better. Anyway, I'll be reviewing that on Friday, so look for that. And, yeah, that's about it. See you guys next time. Bye. I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode, and thank you for listening to the Dragon's Library. Please subscribe to this podcast to be notified of new episodes. The Dragons Library releases new episodes Tuesday and Friday each week, and you can follow us on Twitter at dragon_library2. If you want to suggest an episode topic, my email is in the description below. And as always, thank you so much for all your support.